Hey everybody, welcome to Fab Fit Friday. You can see I'm wearing my basic bodice. I am so excited. I have to say it's been a long time since I've started from scratch to do pattern work. After I developed my basic set of pattern pieces, I used those to design new styles. So this has been such a fun journey for me to prepare this basic bodice draft to do with you guys. So I'm super excited. Let me say hi. Hi Judy, hi Mary, hi Becky, welcome. All right, let's see. So I have a lot of stuff I want to talk about today, and we'll just see how it goes in terms of, getting everything that I want to do today done. I may have to split it up into, next week. We'll see. I'd like to finish doing the body measurements today, the back body measurements, and then also show you how to draft the front. So if we can get through all that today, I'll be excited, and if we can't, then we will draft the front tomorrow. But basically, I want to show you here, I'm wearing my basic bodice, and this bodice has built-in ease. So you can see it's not a skin tight sloper, because I find it easier to add a little bit of ease so you have something to work with when you start designing. So basically what we're going to be drafting is a basic front with waist darts. Now these waist darts are not attractive on most people who have large bust. So my bust is a G cup, and basically when you take such a big dart here, it's very hard to then get it to, smoothly finish up at the tip. So I have little pointies here, but of course I'm never going to wear a basic top with just waist darts like this. I would either rotate this dart into a bust dart or a princess seam or manipulate it in some other way. So, but just to get the basic shape, this is what we're going to work on. This is the easiest thing to draft. Hi Anne, welcome. And Amelia, welcome. So this is what I taught when I worked at Sanford Brown College and Gibbs College in the fashion department. The first thing we would do in drafting was to draft, your basic bodice and skirt. So, like I said, I'm super excited about this. Let me see if I can stand up here. I just want to show you the back so you can see what it looks like. Okay, and then also here's the side. Okay, so you can see it all matches my shape. And what I'm going to do now is actually I'm going to take it off so I can put my tank top back on, because I want to show you what we're going to do about measurements. Plus I want to show you these pattern pieces. But I'm going to take this off. I'm going to put it on my ditto form, and I'm going to show you how close it matches my ditto form as well. So just give me 1 second. Okay, I'm just getting the bodice on my ditto form here. I'm going to bring my ditto form over and show you. So you can see that on my ditto form, it fits very, very similarly to how it fits me. So I was kind of pleased to see that. It's not exact, but it is fairly close. So I'm super excited about that. Hi, Sally. Hi, Angela. Welcome. Hi, Christine. Welcome. All right, so I showed you how my bodice fits, and I want to show you some of the things I did to make that, and then we're going to get into some measurements. So, of course, some of these measurements we're taking can be a little, what do I want to say, hard to capture exactly. Like when we're measuring from the, from the center front down to the strap, that was kind of a tricky measurement to get exactly perfect. Also, the slope of the shoulder from the center front waist up to the tip of the shoulder, that one also was a little tricky to get exact. So I've come up with a way to sort of fine-tune those adjustments before you start drafting. So what I want to show you here is, this was the first front that I drafted, and I just want to show you here what happened when I put it on. So I'm just going to lean it up against me here, and I think you can see what's happening is, like if I keep it at my center front, okay, it was pretty good measurement wise, but this version showed me that my my base of my armhole measurement was a little off, because I think you can see the armhole is hanging too low, so meaning this part right here was hanging too low, and then if you look at the waist, it was dipping down. Okay, so see that dashed line I drew right here? That's how much I needed to straighten my waistline and also bring up my armhole over here. Okay, so these are things that we can look for, and what I recommend doing is, after you draft your front, trace it on some tissue paper and just stick it on you and see how you're doing. So let me just stop and say hi, Diane, welcome, Sally, welcome, Zena, Peggy, welcome everybody. So I basically, what I did here, let me switch my view so it's easier to show you. Oops. Okay, so what I did was, on this piece, I basically cut off this and I lengthened my armhole. I lengthened my side seam here. So basically I just shifted this whole thing up, okay? And when I did that, let me show you how that worked out. And this one is actually, after I checked it, I also did the back. And this one has no ease in it. So I want to show you why I decided to add ease. This is my exact measurement, okay, from, taking my exact measurements. And you can see in paper, I probably could have pulled it around, but I realized that I think it's just going to be easier to have some ease. But you can also see that my armhole and side seam is now correct. So this was after I took off the extra down here and added it over here. All right, but it's really, really snug. So I did a third version, and this time I added ease. And these were the pictures that I posted on my Instagram. My daughter was so smart, she thought to actually tape the center back up at my neckline, but you can see it just fits so much better with that little bit of ease. So those are the 3 tests that I did before I cut out the fabric muslin that I was wearing in the beginning, and it's also right here. Okay, so that's the process I would like you guys to do after you draft your front. Trace a copy on it. Something inexpensive. This is this paper is the paper you can buy that doctors put on exam tables. It's really inexpensive. I think I paid $35 and I got 10 rolls of 50 yards. It was very, very inexpensive. So I have enough of this paper to test a lot of stuff. So let me just move all these out of the way. them here for now. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you is, get into this later. Move this over here. All right, so this was my front draft. Let me show you. Oh, hi, Kate and Deb. Oh, Deb, don't apologize for being late. I'm just happy you're joining me. All right, so this is my draft of the front, and this is what I'm hoping we're going to get to do today. All right, so that's my actual draft. And before we start working on this, I want to share some other stuff with you. I have made a new measurement chart, which is free, and I actually took down the one that's that I had on there originally from last week that was just the front. So what I did was I incorporated the front measurements that we took last week. I put them in this column, and then I took some complete measurements, and actually one or two of my subscribers commented that I could use the whole measurement, subtract out the front to get the back on some of the things that are circumference measurements. So this is a free chart on my website. There is a link to it below the video description. Okay, let me just see. Paulette says, hi, this is Paulette. When you fitted the paper pattern to your left side, the pattern did not reach your shoulder, which made the armhole appear longer. That was just the way I was holding it. I really checked it when I was in front of the mirror, and I had it right on my shoulder. Really, the bigger thing was when you could see that the waist was pitched down at the side, and that just shows that the side seam measurement that we took was correct. It was just down too low because my armhole, when I measured from my side of my neck at the shoulder and then down to here, well, I'm sorry, I'm looking at myself, and so like when I did this measurement from the side of my shoulder down to let me do it on this one here, I put the tape measure too low. Okay, so it needed to be up higher, and that's what I did to shift. And like I said, I spent a lot of time looking in the mirror and really looking to see what was happening, but I think in this beginning of this live stream I just plopped them on and I really wasn't paying attention, but that's basically what happened. All right, so this chart has, like I said, there's columns for total measurements. Anywhere that there was not a total measurement, I put a dash through it so you know not to fill that in. Then we're going to take some back measurements today, and then if I added ease, I indicated that on the chart as well. So this is a complete chart. It's free. You can download it. Let me just see. Hi, Like to Sew. Welcome. Amelia says, I draw dots on my skin with a washable marker for measuring, so I'm measuring from the right place. Yes, I put little stickies on my, I have these little dots that I have, and I actually put little stickers on me. So you can do that if you want to. That's a really good idea. Either, dot your shoulder seam, or you can put a little sticker. So that is a good way to do it. But we're also going to double check with the total measurement on some of these things, and I'm going to show you that. So if you want to download this, it's free. And then I've gotten some requests for PDF versions of my videos. So I decided this was a good time to do a PDF of the Basic Bodice Draft Along. So you can see here, let me just make it a little bit bigger. So this includes a description of all the measurements we're taking and how they are used to shape the bodice draft. And then I start with a step-by-step on how to draft the front and back bodice. You can see here, these are the beginning framework for the draft with step-by-step instructions. Then we have the next steps, and I show where you have to draw in guidelines that we'll need, as well as actual lines. Okay, so there's the slope of the shoulder and the armhole depth. And then we have the side seam, developing the side seam and the waistline, and also the across body measurements for the armhole and bust span. And then we have the bust start and finishing up the shoulder and the waist edge. There's the completed front bodice. And then we're going to do the same thing in the back. So I have complete instructions for the front and the back. There's a link to this PDF below the video as well. And just make sure you use coupon code BODICE5 to get it for half off. So it'll be $5 for anyone who's watching and following along and uses the coupon code. So if you'd like to get this PDF step-by-step guide, there's a link for that below this video as well. So, and the other thing is I want to apologize to everybody because the new Kaya storefront that I have that allows me to attach or put patterns directly on my YouTube channel is only for US residents. So I will put it on there as well. But for now, I'm putting links to my online store, so if you're watching outside the United States, you can download it from my website. Diane says, these PDFs you're prepared are such a great help. Thanks bunches. You are welcome, Diane. All right, so I want to get into some more measurement taking. And what we're going to do today is I am going to just start at the top of my chart here. Okay, so you can get this chart. It's basically the same order of the chart that I had just for the front, but we're going to now do the back. So the first measurement that we took was the full length measurement, meaning from the base of the shoulder at the neckline down to the waist. And I'm just going to slip on my elastic for my waist here. I'm going to get that right on my waist. And I think I lost, did I lose it? Oh no, I didn't. I also have my little neckline, so I'm going to put that back on too. Okay, so I've got this and I've got this. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the back full length measurement, and what I realized is really helpful is if you take your tape measure, put it over your shoulder, and I am going to mark straight across my bust to my waist here, and I'm going to do the same thing in the back. Here, let me stand up. So we've got straight down over the bust in the front to the waist, and I'm going to just bring it all the way around and back like this, and I'm going to hold it at the waist. And then I'm going to look at the number, and I am getting 42 inches. Let me just, wait a minute, let me just try that again here. I got 42 inches the first time. Let me make sure I'm doing this. I always would feel better if I could get the same number if I measured. Hi Andrea, welcome. All right, so again, I'm going to be right at the straight down to the waist. My waist. Hold on. Okay, so here's the waist right here. Okay, and then I'm going to pull it straight over my shoulder to my bust, to my waist in the front. And I'm getting just make sure I think I had this a little bit lower. Hold on. Just want to make sure I get it. Let me see, what is that? 41. Okay, so my full length front to back is 41. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to look at what I had for my front. My front was 20 3/4. So my back is going to be 21 1/4. So if you take your full front to back, full length measurement, then you can get your back by subtracting the front out of the total. Amelia would like to know if I'm eyeballing straight up and down. I am eyeballing straight up and down. I took these measurements in front of the mirror so I could really see what I was doing, and I was checking in the mirror in the back and looking in the front, looking in the side. So I'm going to go with the measurement that I got when I was doing it carefully. So when I measured myself carefully, it was 42. Okay, so my total when I did it carefully was 42. My front was 20 3/4, and my back was 21 1/4. So using the total measurement and then subtracting the front out can give you the best, I think, results for that. Now the next one is a cross shoulder. So if you remember how we did this in the front, we measured from the center front to the tip of the shoulder. Okay, so to do the back, what I did was I put my tape measure across my back, and I carefully found the tips of my shoulders here. Okay, and then I divided that number in half. And for me, my back was 8 3/4, so half of my back was 8 3/4. In the front, it was 8 1/2. So typically your back shoulder is going to be slightly longer than your front, you know, from your center out to your shoulder. All right, so I got 8 3/4 in the back. Now I added a 1/2 inch of ease to that measurement. That might be too much for some of you, so depending on your size, you can add 1/4 to a 1/2 inch to those measurements to give yourself some ease so it's not skin tight against your body. The next one is the center back length. And basically to do that one, to do the center back length, what I did was I just put the tape measure at the base of my elastic in the back, and I just felt for where the elastic was at my waist, like this. And you can feel your spine, and that's what helps me get the center back at the center back, you know, standing up straight. Okay, so when I did it carefully in the mirror, I got 20 for my back. I had 17 3/4 for my front. Okay, and there is no ease for this measurement. Then the upper bust, or the bust arc, remember we took this measurement where we measured across, you know, from the center to the side seam to get the bust arc. Okay, and that's what dictates the width of the front of our bodice, our front bodice. So to get the whole picture, what you want to do is wrap it completely around you. We're gonna measure the high bust, or I'm sorry, the full bust here, and you want your tape measure to be approximately 2 inches below your armpit. Okay, so if you get your full bust measurement, that's going to include the bust arc plus the back arc. Okay, because we need the back arc to do the back, and we need the bust arc to do the front. Now obviously we want to make sure that our tape measure is parallel to the floor, okay, all the way around, and carefully take that measurement. So my full bust total is 45 1/2. So my front arc was 26, or I'm sorry, 13 from center to side. So I minus 26 inches from that, and I got 19. So 45 minus 26 is 19, I believe. Let me just do it on my little calculator so I don't screw anything up here. Hold on. So 45.5 minus 26 is 19 and a half. I'm sorry. 19 and a half divided by 2 is 9.75. Now I added a ½ inch of ease to both my bust arc and my back arc. So I ended up with 13 and a half for the front and 10 and a quarter for the back. All right, so that's how I got my bust arc and my back arc measurements. The next thing we're going to do is slope of shoulder. Now again, this was a tricky one because you had to measure from your center front waist to the tip of the shoulder like this. So when we did it last week, we did it like this, you know, to center front. So what I did was, to make sure I captured everything, I actually put the tape measure on my tip of my shoulder like this, you know, and I got it carefully in the right spot at the tip of my shoulder, and then I held the tape measure in the back at center at the waist. So it's going to look something like, where's my waist? Here and here. So this is basically going to give us the complete strap, or I'm sorry, shoulder slope. Okay, so the trick to this is to make sure that here is right on the tip of your shoulder. And actually, if you want to Scotch tape it in place, that's a help. I realize simple Scotch tape can really help you when you're you know, measuring yourself. So if I get this right at that bone and I just tape it there, then that will stay put for me while I get my center front here and in the back as well. So it'll look like that. All right, so when I did this carefully in front of the mirror, I got 43 inches front to back, from center front over the tip of the shoulder to center back. So my front was 22, my back was 21, and I did not add ease to this. Okay, then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to measure. I'm just going to move this up to my apex here. And we're just going to measure from the center of our shoulder down to our apex. Okay, and I think I got the same, I always get the same 12 and a half for that. So that's, oh, that's the bust depth. Well, guess what? I just did that to remind you for the front. You don't need that for the back. Let me just stop and say hello to, oh, the lovely person from South Africa. I'm not even going to try to pronounce your name. I'm so sorry. But welcome. And also, Zena says, thank you. These are some very good tips. Oh, you're entirely welcome. I spent a whole day fussing with this to find the easiest way to do it. Okay, so shoulder length. Again, we already have that for the front, so we're going to keep that. So I have a 5-inch shoulder seam, and then I added a ½ inch of ease for that. And then the next thing was, we are going to do this was another hard one. We're going to do tip of the shoulder to, I'm sorry, tip of the shoulder to 2 inches below armhole. Actually, I think that means center front to 2 inches below armhole. So that's actually a typo. I have to fix that. This is the armhole depth. It's from center front at the neckline up here to 2 inches below the armhole. Okay, that's right here, and it's my first typo that I did not notice before. So let me just show you right here. And I will go in and fix it. So if you download it, give me a minute because I'll fix it. Okay, so this armhole depth, it's not tip of the shoulder, it's center front to 2 inches below armhole. Okay, and here's the great news about that measurement. We don't have to take it for the back because we are going to use the front depth to equal the back depth. So I will show you that when we start drafting the back. But the good news is you do not need to take that measurement for the back. Now the side seam, you do not need to take that for the back. I got 10 inches. So obviously if the front is 10 inches, the back is 10 inches as well. And then we need upper bust and upper back. The reason why we need upper bust and upper back, which would be here, is because we're going to use these as a guide for how far our armhole pushes out. Okay, so again, you can take the full measurement. So if I wrap my tape measure around my body, up as high as I can get under my arm to well, actually it's about it is about 2 inches below, but basically we're going to take this full measurement. It's breezy in here today. And then we're going to subtract out the bust arc, or we're going to subtract out the front from the back. So basically when I did my front from center front to 2 inches below here, I got, oh actually I'm telling you the wrong thing. I'm sorry. All right, I'm sorry. That's a boo-boo. We're going to measure here like this. We can't go around because we don't want the stuff under the arms. This is for the armholes. So let me just rewind that for a second. So basically you can use your shirt, okay? So basically what I did was I used this measurement in front. So in front I said I had 8 inches here. So instead of trying to measure the back, I just gave myself an extra ½ an inch in the back, because when I went and tried to measure myself, you know, just by doing this and feeling, which you can do this, or if you have a sewing friend who can do it for you, you can, you know, feel what's going on in the back. Let me just show you. But basically you're trying to capture, you know, your armhole back here. And I found that really hard to do, so I consulted the standard measurement charts that I have, and the back span like that is about a ½ an inch longer than the front. So I ended up with 8 in the back, in the front, and 8.5 in the back, and I added 3/8 of an inch of ease in the front and a ½ an inch of ease in the back. Okay, so that takes care of that. And then the last thing we measured was the waist arc. This one's super easy. You're just going to measure your waist, okay, and then you're just going to subtract the front from the back. So basically, if I measure my waist, or if I do it with starting with the 1 here, sorry. Okay, I get 39 inches. So basically, I measured, my front arc was 10, and my back was 11. So that's what I ended up with. So basically I had 20 in the front and 19, wait a minute, well 39, then I minused out my front arc, so from my center to my side seam doubled was 20 inches, So that means I had 19 inches in the back. Okay, so it was 19 inches, so I divided that in half. So that's 8.5 plus a half an inch of ease is 10, plus we're going to add a dart intake to the back waist measurement. We'll need that too, and it can be 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches. So those are all the measurements you need. So if anybody has any questions about taking these measurements, please let me know. All right, let's see. Mary says, since I rarely wear a bra, reconstruction after mastectomies under chest wall, I put the elastics on and came out to the front room to go along with your video last week. My hubby had a heart attack because the blinds were opened. He closed them, sat there while I ran back and forth doing the measurements. I live in the country. There is no one to see in the windows. I love that, Mary. Oh my gosh. Christine has a question. Okay, ask your ease question. My husband is very modest too. Our bedroom is in our basement, and we have those little square, those little rectangle windows up near the ceiling in our bedroom, and he still makes sure he's not in direct view of that. Even though the windows are sunk 3 feet down into the earth, we have those little cutouts, so it's very, very modest. All right, Christine, you ask your question about ease, and while you're doing that, I am going to get my paper here, and we are going to, okay, let's see, it says, when you say to add ease, would that be saying 1/2 inch to both sides? Yes, 1/2 inch to both sides. Oh, hi, my sewing guru. Ooh, I'm a sewing guru. Hi, Carol. Mary says, being a retired or nurse, naked bodies are nothing to me. Amelia says, my husband thinks it's hilarious that I'm often sewing my undies. I think that's so funny. Oh my gosh. All right, I'm going to put this on one more time. I'll just put it on over my tank top because this will sort of help with the question about ease. So I added a total of 1 inch ease because, again, I will never wear anything so snug that I will need less ease than that. So I wanted to start myself at a good place where I wouldn't have to fuss with ease when I'm changing the style of this. So this is, I added 3/8 of an inch ease here, but I added 1/2 inch across my upper back. I added 1 inch ease front and back, so you can see if I pinch it, that's about 2 inches. Okay, so you can customize the amount of ease that you want to add to yours. If you would like to make a skin tight sloper, then maybe add 1/8 inch ease. Give yourself just a little breathing room. But basically that's how it looks with the amount of ease that I have. And the neckline, it's not noticeable in the front, but in the back it's crawling up my neck. That's because I added the 1/2 inch seam allowance around my neckline. So if I had it stitched and clipped, it would have laid flatter across my back. It is jumping up on my neck a little bit because it's 1/2 inch too high. So that's what I decided for myself. So here's the process now. I'm going to switch here. So here's my paper, and I'm working with this gridded paper. The only benefit, well, the big benefit of working with this gridded paper is it can help keep you straight and squared off because you've got little squares all over it. All right, let me make this a little darker. Not that dark. I just want to make sure we're sharp. Hold on. Okay. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. This is the step-by-step how to draft, and basically I'm gonna follow my own PDF to show you how to do this. So basically I'm gonna use my L-shaped ruler. Now remember, if you don't have an L-shaped ruler, another thing you can use is a quilting ruler, because a quilting ruler has a 6-inch short end and a 24-inch long end. So you can use that corner of a quilting ruler the same way. And I don't know where any of my quilting rulers are right now, but just visualize, you know, if you have a quilting ruler, here's a narrow one, but basically you would use it the same way, okay? So basically what I'm going to do here is we're going to have our center front on the right side of the paper, because that's the traditional way that that is drawn. And I'm going to just use black to draw up and across, and I'm going to line it up with the grid on my paper. So I'll line it up with the ones here like this. Now I'm going to be using my measurement chart, so you want to keep an eyeball on it. So basically I want a vertical line that's 20 3/4 inches long, and we are going to use the bust arc is what determines the width of the bottom part of the draft. So across the bottom, my bust arc is 13.5, and that's including that 1/2 inch of ease that I talked about. So I am going to just go across here to, well, 14. I'll have to extend that in a minute. And then I'm just going to go straight up. Oops. Like this. I'll just go longer than I need. And then I'm just going to make this a little bit longer. This line needs to be 13.5. So I'm going to just go like this. Alright, so this is going to be 13.5 right here. And then I'm going to square up. Oh wait, let me do this one over here. Alright, so this is the bust arc here. Okay, to here. This is going to be my center front. And then my full length is 20 3/4. So if I bring this to 20 3/4, I'm right here. Okay, so now I can square off my across the front shoulder, which dictates the width of this part. So my across the shoulder is 8.5. So I'm going to go to 8.5 here. All right, so those are the outer parameters of my draft so far. So I've got my full length and my across shoulder. Okay, so I've got those done. Now I need to draw some guidelines. These guidelines are just there so that our diagonal measurement lines will have a place to touch. We need 2 of them, so I'm going to use, for my guidelines, I want to use a light color. I don't want to use a dark color so they're distracting. So first I'm going to just draw myself a squared guideline. So again, I'm using my L-shaped ruler, and I'm going to draw straight up here. Okay, so that's going to be where we're going to get our shoulder, our armhole depth will be here. And then I'm also going to draw a shorter guideline here, about 4 inches or so. Oops. And this is where we're going to get the, this is going to be for our shoulder slope. All right, so I've got one guideline here, I've got one guideline here. In the handout, you'll notice my guidelines are yellow. So I'm just trying to keep it, you know, pretty similar to what I have to, you know, to follow along there. So that's how they look in the instructions. Okay. All right, so the next thing we're going to mark is we have our full length here, but now we want to mark our center front, so the base of our neckline. So for me, that was 17 3/4. So I am going to use this ruler. And I'm not going to draw a vertical line. I'm just going to measure along my full length until I get to 17 3/4, which is practically the entire length of this ruler. And again, I'm just going to make myself, I'm going to square it off. So I'll use this ruler here to draw. This is the base of my front neckline. So about a 4-inch guideline there. All right, so this is center front. I'll draw it in. Let me draw it in black here. This is center front neckline. You know, or the base of neckline. All right, so that's what this is. All right, so we've got that all taken care of. The next step, I'm going to turn the page, is to do our dart placement and our slope of our shoulder and our shoulder seam. Now, dart placement, all that means is we're going to make a mark here where the first leg, or the leg, our dart leg closest to our center front is going to be positioned. We need to consider our bust span when we figure out our dart placement, because you want your dart to obviously angle in like this, right? So the dart placement needs to be smaller or shorter than our bust span. So I think a good proportion for that is 1 inch shorter. So my bust span is well, it was 4 1/4, and I added a 1/4 inch of ease to my bust span. So it's 4 3/4. So I'm going to make my dart placement 3 3/4. So just keep that in your mind in terms of your, you know, your dart placement here. All that means is where the first dart leg is going to go, and it needs to be shorter than your bust span. And you want to have it extend 1/8 of an inch below the bust arc line. Okay, so that's my dart placement. I'll just write here dart placement. Okay, so there's that. The next thing we're going to do is our slope of our shoulder, and I will do that in blue. I think I have blue here somewhere. Where did my blue marker go? I'll just use this one. So remember, the slope of the shoulder was when we measured center front to the tip of our shoulder. So for me, that was 22 inches in the front. Now think about that for a second. My front, from center front to slope of shoulder, is bigger or longer than my back. Why is that? Because I have a giant bust. So if you do not have a large bust, your front and back, center to slope, might be more similar, or depending on the shape of your back, it could be longer. So don't assume because mine is longer in the front, yours might not be, or it might be closer. So I'm gonna go from the corner at center front, and basically what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna rotate my ruler down like this until the 22 hits my guideline. Okay, so that's why we have this guideline coming down here, because we're just going to rotate the ruler in until the measurement you're looking for hits. So basically, here's my 22, so I'm going to put a dot. I'm not even going to do a dot. I'm just going to draw myself a line from there to there. Oops. Okay, so that's going to be the slope of my shoulder. Okay, so see how that looks? Notice how close my slope of my shoulder is to my across my shoulder. The reason why that is because look at, I barely have any slope. So, and here's another good thing about this particular measurement. I'm going to take this off for a second to show you. I think this is a tricky measurement to get, and what I want to show you here is when I tried my muslin on, my fabric muslin on the first time, and I'm just going to show you the picture too. Hold on one second. Let me show you the picture of what my back looked like. All right, so see how I have like some rumple. See how rumply it is in the back? Oops. Sorry. Okay, so see how rumply that is? What fixed that was when I picked up my shoulders. See how it smoothed out? So what I did was I sewed my shoulder seam deeper, actually making a little bit more of a slope. So I came down a ½ an inch, and then here's how it looks after I fixed the slope of my shoulder. So just know that once we draft our bodices, little things that are not exact can be fixed. So this is very close. I'm going to leave it like that because that's what I had. But basically, if this isn't exactly where it should be here, we can very easily see that and fix that in your muslin. So let me just make this a little bit lighter here. Okay. Just come over. All right, so my slope of my shoulder went to here. The next thing I'm going to draw in is my my length of my shoulder. So the length of my shoulder is 5 plus plus that ½ an inch, so it's 5 1/2. So again, I'm going to put the tip of my ruler right here, and I'm going to rotate it down until it hits the cross shoulder line. So I'm staying right here. See, right here. And then I'm just going to rotate it until 5 1/2 hits my across shoulder, and I'm going to draw that. So it's right here. Now this angle does not have to be a 90-degree angle, okay? But we are going to create a 90-degree angle over here. Let me show you. So you can see here, this is our front neckline, and the interesting thing to me is if you chopped your head off and looked at the base of your neck, it's approximately 6 inches in diameter. So the radius would be half of that, which is 3. So notice my across shoulder to the base of my neckline is about 3 inches, and from the tip of my shoulder at the neckline to my center front is approximately 3 inches. So I'm pretty happy with the position of this. So to finish the guideline for the neckline, I am going to square off. So I'm going to line the short end of my ruler up with my shoulder, and I'm just going to make a guideline like this. So this is going to be in here, this little box is where we're going to do our neckline later. Okay, so now we've got shoulder length, the tip of our shoulder, or shoulder slope, those things are done. see, what is the next thing we are going to do? The next thing we are going to do is our shoulder depth. And again, this is my shoulder depth is 12.5. So again, I'm going to go from the neck edge of my shoulder. And again, I'm going to rotate my ruler up until 12.5 hits this long vertical guideline that I drew. Okay, so I'm just going to rotate this up until I get 12.5. That's going to be right here. Okay, so I can draw it. Okay, so that's the slope of the shoulder. This is going to be the base of my armhole and the top of my side seam. Okay, so that's what that does. So we can very easily go from this to measuring down the length of our side seam. So my side seam is 10 inches, so I'm just going to make a mark here. I'm not going to draw a line because this is not going to be our side seam. This is just the length of our side seam. All right, so the next step is we are going to create the actual side seam. So I am going to measure 1.5 inches, or 1.25 inches actually. Let's do 1.25 inches, and I'm going to use yellow. So we're going to add 1.25 inches right here. All right, so that's where we're going to draw our side seam to. So our actual side seam is still going to be 10 inches. Okay, but it might, we're just going to make it exactly 10 inches, so it's a little bit off the dot, but basically this is my actual side seam. Okay, so this is just the length, but then we measure out 1 1/4 inch. Okay, and then we draw our side seam there. So that is our side seam. The next thing we're going to do is let's mark our bust span and our across the shoulder, across the chest to get the armhole position. So the bust span for me was 4 3/4 inches. Now where are we going to draw the bust span? Well, first we need to know the bust depth. So I'm going to find the middle of my shoulder, oops, here. So the middle of my shoulder is going to be about here. And then I'm going to measure straight down the my bust depth. Now my bust depth was 12.5. So I'm just going to measure down to 12.5 here, and I'm going parallel with my center front. So my 12.5 is right here. Okay, that's my bust depth. Then what I'm going to do is I am going to measure across here. Let me just use a wider ruler so it's perpendicular here to my center front. I am going to go across 4 3/4 inches, which is my bust span. That's the bust span is the space between your apex. And I added 1/4 inch, so I actually added a total of 1/2 inch of ease here. But basically we're just going to go to 4 3/4. So now you can sort of see the relationship between, see, that's going to be the angle for my dart, from the dart placement down here to my bust span. And this was my bust depth. Okay, now where are we going to put the line for across the chest for the armhole? We are going to put that 1/3 of the way down between center front and bust span. So if I measure my distance between the base of my neckline and my bust span, I get 9 5/8, or almost 9 3/4 So that's going to be 3 1/4. So we'll put that like right here. So I'm just going to go across here, and my center front to armhole edge across my upper bust was 8 3/4 or 8 3/8. So 8 3/8 will be right here. And then what I want to do up at the end here is I'm going to draw myself a little sort of T vertical guideline. That's going to be where we'll touch, you know, the armhole has to touch there. Okay, so the next thing is, oh, the other thing I can do here is down at the bottom, I'm just going to draw a guideline from my side seam to the bottom of my little dart placement, and that's just going to be the line that we're going to develop our waistline on. So for now, that's just a guideline for the waist. Okay. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw in the waistline and the guideline for our waist dart now. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to measure, or just remind ourselves what our dart placement was. So this is 3 3/4 inches here. So from here to here is 3 3/4, right? My entire front waist arc was 10 3/8. So if I take, I'm just going to use the use my calculator. So let's do 10.38 minus 3.75 for 3 3/4 over here. I get 6.63. I'm going to call that 6 5/8. What I'm going to do is I'm going to measure from here down to 6 5/8 right here. Okay, so that's going to be where my other dart leg is going to go. So now I can draw in my dart guideline. This is just going to be a guideline, and I'll explain that in a minute. So we're going to go to here. So that measures 8 5/8. So that means I need to draw 8 5/8 through this line. So 8 5/8 like this down here. So that's the guideline for my dart. Then I can use a curved ruler. I'm just going to use this one, the French curve here. And I'm just going to draw a gentle curve from here to here. Okay. And then I'm going to draw a gentle curve from here to here. So that's my waist now. So you can see this bust arc is no longer a thing, right? So I've got waist and waist. Then what I'm going to do is I have to drop the tip of this dart. You don't want the tip of the dart to be up at your apex where your bust span was taken. I'm going to lower mine an inch because I'm a D+ cup, but I did put instructions in the handout. If you're an A to C cup, you can move the tip of the dart down 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch, and you can lower the dart from an inch to 1 1/4 inches maybe even 1.5 inches, depending on how large your bust cup size is. So I'm going to lower mine 1 inch, like this, put it right there, and then I'm just going to redraw my actual dart now, like this. Okay, so you can see now we've got the whole lower end of our bodice is finished. We have our center front, we have our waist dart, the rest of our waist, and our side seam. That's all finished. So the next step, and actually there's just really 2 more steps. We're going to draw in the shapes of our armholes and our neckline. So really, there is a curvier ruler you can use for this. I have to find mine. But basically, you're going to want to touch, let me use a different color, use orange. You're going to want to come in, you want to touch this, and you want to come in here and touch this a little bit. So I have a little something wonky going on with this. When I drafted that the first time, I didn't have that problem, so I'm really not sure. Let me just look at it. Where's my front? Now see, even here, it was a little bit off, so you might need to extend the line a little bit, because this is probably a little bit low for where I should be measuring on here. So if you extend this, if it's not easily reachable, just extend this. So the whole idea is you want to touch this vertical line, and you want to create a nice smooth, you know, C shape. And then you do need to be squared off. Oh no, it doesn't need to be squared off there, but you basically want to be coming straight in, have your curve. Now this looked funny to me, but on my muslin it really fit. And I think part of what makes this shape look, I don't want to say funny, but if you have a large bust size, I'm just going to draw, and actually it's, you know, something like this, you need more. All of this room underneath the arm is going to be longer for someone who has a larger bust, because you need more room to get around. So I really thought this was a funky armhole, but it worked because I just showed you how it fit me. So this is sort of a lesson in things don't look like a standard pattern when you're drafting them for your measurements. So basically that's the armhole. And then for the neckline, what we're going to do here is we're just going to measure out in the middle of this 1/4 inch and make a little guide here. Then what I'm going to do basically is make a, you know, a round neck like this, so it can extend a little bit past the guideline. Okay, so that's going to be what the front neckline looks like. And it's really important that this is squared off, because if this is not straight for for a little bit, it's going to look like a V-neck. So you need it to be perpendicular here, and that's the neckline and the armhole. All right, so that would be my completed draft. So after you complete it, this is what I would trace and make yourself, you know, trace yourself a copy. Okay, and you can see that this looks very similar to my tracing. Very, very similar. And I added seam allowance, as you can see. And then you just want to try it on. And actually, for the first couple, I didn't even add the seam allowances. So you want to make yourself a tissue copy, tape up your dart. Let me just show you what that looks like again. So here's the one that I actually taped shut. Okay, so tape your dart shut like that. And I taped, well, this is my back I also did, but my point is, even for just the front, where was the one I did? My front one. Alright, I don't know where my plain front went, but the bottom line is, if you trace this, tape the dart up, and just lay it against you and see how you're doing, then you can see if you added enough ease, you can see if, you know, the armhole height is correct. Like on my first one, I literally had to bring this up and cut this off. Okay, so if you're not part of my J Stern Designs Fit Sew Embroider group, now might be a good time to join it, because if you have questions about your draft and you want to show me pictures, I mean, you can email them to me, but also if you post them in our group on Facebook, then you might be answering somebody else's question when I see it and answer. So feel free to join my J Stern Designs Fit Sew Embroider Facebook group. Post your questions in there. You know, so if you have time during the week, draft your front bodice, try it, let me know how it comes out, and then to prep for the next week, we're going to draft the back, and we're going to take measurements for the sleeve. So that's what we're going to do next week. And what I want to show you here is what you're going to do to prep to draft your back. I'm going to show you. You're going to trace a copy of your front onto a new piece of paper. But notice when I traced the front, I didn't line up my center front with the grain line or the grid on the pattern. I lined up my side seam, my front side seam with the whatchamajigger, my side seam with the grid, so that way I could draft straight on grain when I did the back. So this is my back. And actually, I just want to show you here. It could, when I added the ease and the dart and everything, I just want to show you, if your waist, so this black line from here to here was the across back, you know, you have the bust arc for the front is at the hem in the front. Well, what's in the back is your back arc, which is this black line from here to here. Then you're going to develop your back waist on the same line, but you're adding 1.5 inches for a dart. So what can happen is, if your waist is bigger, it could be that this sticks out. So you'll notice my waist actually stuck out to here. So if your waist extends past your back arc, that's okay. So that's another thing that can happen. But to prepare, like I said, to draft it, you're going to trace your front so that the side seam is on grain with the grid on your paper, and we're gonna use the base of the front armhole to match up the base of the back armhole. All right, so that's how we're gonna draft the back next week. So please let me know if you have any questions. I am super excited about doing this drafting project with you guys. Yep, really excited. So make sure you grab your new measurement chart, but I'm gonna look at it. Hold on one second here. I don't think I can share my screen with you, but I'm just gonna look at my my chart. Hold hold on one second. And I think I have to change that one thing. So the armhole depth is center front to 2 inches below armpit. So I'm just going to change that on here. Center front to 2 inches below armpit. I'm going to save that. And I'm going to upload it to my my website. So if you want to give me a minute to download your chart, unless you don't care about that mistake. So I'm going to open center front. All right. All right, so if you give me a minute to fix it, then you can download it. Save, file, export. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this part 2 of the Basic Bodice Draft Along. Next week we will draft the back and we will take measurements for the sleeve. So that's what we'll be doing next week. And I will have a, I'm gonna do step-by-step instructions for the sleeve as well, and I will give you a coupon code for that as well, and that will be free for people who bought the PDF companion. So you're not going to have to pay more to get the sleeve information. I just haven't had time to finish it yet, so I want to make sure I give you the information you need to draft the front and back. Next week you'll have the information to draft the sleeve. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope the weather is nice for you guys. We have a wonderful weekend. It's probably about, I want to say 20 degrees cooler than last weekend, and the humidity is so much nicer. So I'm teaching this weekend, so I'm always happy to have a nice unhumid day to teach. So I'm excited. But in any case, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you again next week. So thanks so much, and I will wish you all a happy weekend, and I'm off. Bye-bye. What the computer just crashed?